Hi everyone, welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson. I have a beautiful guest today. She's a modern alchemist, Adora Winquist, and the founder of the lifestyle brand, Adora Winquist. So welcome, Adora. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Wendy. It is an infinite honor and pleasure to be here with you.
I have been so excited to have this conversation. One, because you are releasing a new book, which I think is going to be fantastic, and we'll talk about that. But for those listeners who aren't familiar with your work or haven't listened to our earlier podcast and interview, let's talk a little bit about what quantum alchemy is,
Mm,
how you found your way to it, or how it found you. And I'm just going to turn it over to you so you can kind of share that story.
fantastic. Thank you so much. So I guess we'll start with a little bit of the backstory because I think that that's always interesting and creates such an opportunity for common ground for others that are finding their truth and their passion and in the journey of awakening. And so for me, from a very, very young age, I was interested in the natural world. I spent most of my time outdoors communing with the plants and trees and flowers, and I felt much more of a sense of camaraderie with them than most of my peers at the time. And so this beautiful connection was seeded. And then as I grew older, fostered and developed with a lot of outdoor activities. And then when I was 19, I moved away from home really for the first time on my own. And every year since I had been a child, I would get chronic bronchitis brought about from allergies twice a year. And I would just be flat out down for the count. And so I moved to Cape Cod and I didn't have health insurance and I didn't have a lot of money. And I was really at this place of deep frustration and exhaustion. And so somewhere I heard something about herbs and I went out and bought a book and 5 different herbs, hyssop, thyme, eucalyptus, licorice root, and fresh ginger. I went home and I made a tea and was amazed by how quickly I healed. In fact, after that point, I never had bronchitis again, which
Really?
really
Oh
showed
my
the
gosh.
power of plant medicine. Yes. So I started making more teas and tinctures and having anyone in my family or circle of friends that was under the weather that would agree to take them to do so. And then I found essential oils and I was hooked because I was always enamored with the power of scent. And so I started making blends and formulating products. I started my first product business in 1998. And at that same time, because I had been studying Reiki, back in the late 90s when this was still a relatively new concept, I was amazed by the power of vibrational medicine, even from a rudimentary perspective and how it was so potent for me from an emotional perspective, and then also with other people in my circle. So at the time that I started my product business, I also started a healing practice. And then I thought, well, why not combine these two passions, right? Because essential oils, by their very nature, are malleable to intention and to vibration. And so when we can first take specific intention and then from a higher, more cosmic or universal perspective, energetic frequency and templates, those can all be infused to the essential oils. And then it really becomes a deeper process of alchemy. Now, many people have heard the term alchemy and refer it back to that ancient philosophy of transmuting base metals into gold. But when I talk about alchemy, it's really taking any of those places that we've experienced in this life of pain or struggle, those patterns that keep repeating that don't serve us in our highest way, and transmuting those to places of empowerment and light and joy and passion, ultimately so we can embody and actualize our soul purpose, right? Our divine light, our divine purpose, really the reason that we're here. And from a quantum alchemy perspective, we're at this beautiful juncture on this planet of time and space where we can quantum leap along our own healing journey and healing spiral, to be able to transmute in such rapid ways these places of challenge that we've had in our past, but not just in our own personal past, but through our lineage. And I'll talk more about that from the DNA perspective when we go into
Yes,
discussing the book.
yes, that's so fantastic. I know this year, and that's such a beautiful summary. So thank you so much for laying the groundwork for our conversation so perfectly. This year, you have so much going on. You launched a new line, the Elixirs for Quantum Living, which
Yeah.
I'm really excited about. So let's talk a little bit about that. What a download did you receive to kind of plant the seed for creating this grouping of elixirs? And what are you trying to address and assist humanity with their healing in creation of this beautiful elixir line?
Well, thank you for asking. I'm so excited about this collection. Um, in essence, I've wanted to incorporate hemp or CBD into a line of products for many, many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I believe the beauty of divine timing comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Because a year ago in January, I was sitting at the table with my graphic designer working on a project, and I got a phone call from a colleague that I had worked side by side with in my previous brand. And she said, Adora, I know that we don't know each other too well, but you keep coming to mind when I'm thinking about this new CBD product that I'm working with. And I'm just wondering if you'd like to create a CBD line with your aromatic knowledge. I just feel like it would be so potent. And I thought to myself, well, this is really interesting. I didn't necessarily anticipate creating another collection in my new brand that would be available for wholesale or even distribution, not just in the US, but globally. And so I thought, well, this is a really interesting opportunity. I'm going to go within and see where there's resonance. And I really feel like too, the other opportunity that we have from the perspective of quantum alchemy is living from effortless intention and creating from effortless intention.
I love
And
that.
so, yeah, thank you. And so this line of the elixirs really unfolded in that easy, gentle way. And so I knew that I wanted to create something that would be relatively simple, only 3 products in the collection, but that would address the 3 primary key challenges that we all face, right, from a human perspective. Energy, mood, and sleep. So if you look at statistics, this is where from a consumer product perspective, we're looking for the majority of our alternative medicine remedies.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, this is a really wonderful way to incorporate the CBD with the essential oils. Now, at that time, the conversation was simply on using CBD at the nanoparticle level, which creates these very micro drops that are much more bioavailable, more readily absorbed into the body and efficiently used throughout the systems. But as we began to discuss the opportunity further, the idea of having the essential oil formulas also nanoparticleized became part of the conversation.
Wow.
And for someone who's worked in the field of aromatics for over 2 decades, I've always loved being at that kind of forefront or
Yes.
pioneering, visionary aspects of doing something innovative, right? And so I thought, gee, this is remarkable because it really hasn't been done before. So then taking the nano CBD, combining it with the pure and premium aromatics from my sourcing relationship for the past 20 years, and then nanoparticleizing those, and then adding the vibrational templates for the gem essences. Right. And so each one, like the energy one, has ruby gem essence intentionally infused. The mood one, which is really one of my favorites, has emerald gem essence infused. And the sleep one has sapphire essence infused. So it really creates a quantum synergy for these medicines to be absorbed, not just into the bloodstream, but also, because essential oils are lipid soluble, to pass through the blood-brain barrier and really allow all of their phytonutrients to be absorbed into the bloodstream and to support the healing and regeneration and optimum performance of our brain. So I came up with the idea for this, the Elixirs for Quantum Living, because again, we're really at this opportunity to move away from aspects of living and survival, and taking those places of struggle and difficulty and transmuting them to places of a life of thriving, right? And great empowerment and the ultimate expression of our highest truth, our highest self, and our greatest gifts.
Yes, so beautifully said. And I can't wait to share your website with the world so that people can purchase these amazing elixirs. And why don't you share your website, and I'll drop it in
Oh,
the
great.
comments below so people can find you and
Sure. Should
explore
I put it
all of
into
the offerings that you have.
sorry, should I put it into the chat or just
Oh, no,
for,
that's okay. You can just go ahead and
okay,
say it verbally, and I will actually include it when I edit the show.
thanks, Wendy. It's AdoraWinquist.com.
Awesome. And then also what I kind of wanted to swing back because, the pandemic is still very, very prevalent across the nation and the world. And you had an incredible line that you released called the Viral Warrior line. So I wanted to just touch a little bit on that before
Thank you.
we moved forward.
Yeah, this is a really remarkable line because it combines some of the most potent aromatics with an antiviral nature, along with energetic infusions of gem essences like shungite, which we know is really a powerhouse for protecting the outer layers of our energy field, with many things, including EMF. And so this collection has cinnamon cassia, cinnamon leaf, lemon, all organic essential oils that are brought together in a beautiful synergistic form that can be used as a gargle, which is a really potent way to use these medicinal plants. And remembering that essential oils truly are the quintessence of the plant, right? And each drop has hundreds of different chemical constituents that have an affinity and benefit to specific organs or systems of the body. And so from that perspective, being biochemically active in nature, they are the most potent form of plant medicine. So when we take just 2 drops and combine that into a gargle to get those powerful plant medicines into the bloodstream, especially into the lymph system through the gargling, is such a great way to keep our system strong. And that's really important because we've been faced with the challenges of the pandemic, but we're in an ever evolving and changing world. And so keeping our system strong physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually is imperative right now, so we can continue to be those bearers of light and vibrancy and health and well-being as the planet continues to go through this great shift.
Beautiful. I know you have so many different offerings. I'm on your newsletter distribution list, so I see all the cool things that you're
Oh, thank
doing.
you.
And you have a retreat coming up in the fall. So why don't you share a little bit about that? Because it sounds pretty amazing.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this. About 2 years ago in meditation, I was asked to take a group of people to the south of France to retrace the footsteps of Mary Magdalene. And I thought, well, this sounds really remarkable. Of course, I will always heed the call of
Yeah.
higher intuition.
Hmm.
And so we began to plan in conjunction with Body, Mind, Spirit Journeys, which has been organizing wonderful trips to sacred sites around the world for, I think, 3 decades. So working together, we've been able to curate a beautiful offering of boutique hotels and meals and entrance to sacred sites so that we can retrace the steps of Mary Magdalene and her life in France with the greater understanding that she was a very high level spiritual initiate
Hmm.
and aspect of the divine feminine, and really the right hand, not only as an apostle, but as a counterpart to Christ in sacred marriage. And so she has tremendous teachings that have been really hidden and attempted to be pushed away for obviously many, many, many years. And so this is a journey of the divine feminine to work with her energy, invoking her presence and her sacred mysteries so we can bring about deep healing at the DNA level, heal our past so we can illuminate our brightest future. And one of the focuses on the teaching that I'll be bringing through ceremony, through initiation, through working with these aspects of alchemy like essential oils and sacred geometry and meditation, is the teaching on sacred relationship and how our primary sacred relationship is one of self. And when we can bring our loving presence and compassion and forgiveness, we can really transform not just our physical well-being or our emotional well-being, but at our cellular consciousness and at the level of our DNA, healing our lineage. And so we can then open to sacred relationship with others in a completely new way, where we're able to give and receive love that feeds us right down to our soul level. And so it's going to be a wonderful journey and working with these frequencies, these vibration to heal and really move into deeper understandings of faith, trust, surrender, and what it is to live life from the perspective of divine love, and love being our really the driving factor or the GPS of how we live our lives.
Yes, so powerful. So how can people sign up for this if they're interested in?
Great. So on our website, there is an event tab at the top that lists the Mary Magdalene Retreat. And then also, if you sign up for our newsletter, we are sending out lots of information about the wonderful journey, not just from the perspective of, starting our trip in Marseille and going all the way to Toulouse, but also some of the wonderful experiences that we're going to have in sacred community. And I think one of the most beautiful things about this trip is that it's going to be a small group. We've got about 22 people that we can accommodate because of the nature of the boutique hotels.
Mhm.
And that really allows us to connect in sacred community and have that container of connection and co-creation, and really to celebrate all of the aspects of our individual lives that have brought us perfectly here and now, as these walking miracles, right, of
Yeah,
transformation
yeah.
and of infinite potential, and how we can lean into each other in this beautiful group setting for deep and profound healing.
Sounds incredible. And I'm sure you're going to fill those 22 slots.
Yeah,
So people,
yeah, we have a few left.
yeah, people should get on that website really quickly if this resonates and sounds like it's calling to your soul. I wanted to explore a little bit more because I think you and I have a strong understanding of um, energy healing on the DNA level, but some of our listeners might not be really clear around what that means and what it looks like. And First off, I do want to share with our audience that we are bringing through patterns and programs in our DNA, not only from experiences in this lifetime, but from really our soul lineage. So many, many past lifetimes as well. And there are patterns of unresolved, issues, traumas, programs, mindsets that kind of, roll forward with us on our soul journey until we do find healing for those things. And those things really are embedded in our DNA imprint when we come into this life. So I wanted to ask you to share a little bit of your knowledge. Clearly, this is something you address every day in your formulations and healing, healing offerings. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you share a little bit of your knowledge about that.
Thank you, Wendy. Thanks. Well, this is really such a palpable aspect of my work right now, especially with the launch of my book coming out.
Yes.
And the book really addresses how we can heal at the level of our DNA. Of course, not just, as you mentioned, healing our own personal past, but our lineage, right? So coming back to the premise that there were these walking miracles. So imagining that, we have trillions of cells within our bodies, right? And each cell is imprinted with every single experience we've ever had in this life since the point of conception. So it's every physical experience, emotional, mental, and spiritual experience. And so that alone is a bit mind-boggling.
Yes.
And then to consider that the same applies within each of our cells for every experience that our mother has had and our father. We hold all of that, and their mothers and their fathers, all the way down the line, right? So as these incredible walking miracles, we have the power, the infinite potential to bring through our love, through our light, through our desire to incarnate at this juncture of time and space, to bring healing at the quantum level down through our DNA to completely shift and clear and expand and awaken and activate latent aspects of our DNA or frequency that's held in there, latent light codes that expand our consciousness and our ability to co-create the life of our soul's longings and our dreams. But how do we do that, right? And can we do that?
Right.
Well, one thing that's so important is that looking at the aspects of clearing, of purifying, because just think of your closet, right? When your closet's full and you want to bring in some new beautiful clothes into that, where do you put it, right? When it's just overflowing and bursting at the seams. And so I think that this is a fun analogy that many of us can relate to. But the book, Detox, Nourish, Activate, Plant and Vibrational Medicine for Energy, Mood, and Love, that I've co-authored with my colleague, Dr. Lulu Shemek, is a beautiful guide of personal transformation, of how we can live our best lives and thrive through the process of self-discovery and healing our core trauma at the DNA level. And so one thing I love about what you just said is that it's more than just what we've experienced physically or even emotionally, right? It's that spiritual connection and what we carry at the soul level, which is connected to our soul family.
Yes.
And so when we are able to bring healing to one of the aspects that we've come into this incarnation through our trauma to bring wholeness to, right? It not only shifts that through our own being and our own DNA down the line, but it shifts it at the level of our soul family. We're able to bring the frequency of wisdom and wholeness through us, through our DNA, imprinted to our soul family, and then imprinting to the level of the collective consciousness on the planet. So again, the web of life begins to shift. Our consciousness collectively increases, elevates, and expands. And that is how we will continue to create heaven on this earth. So
Exactly.
yeah, so the early chapters of the book talk about some of these psycho-spiritual or esoteric teachings or philosophies, many of which have come through my 2 decades of working in personal process with clients, with myself,
Yeah.
with my customers, right? Asking for specific aromatics or healing support for areas, and how we can really look at our aspects of our feminine aspect, our personality aspects, our masculine, and our child consciousness, right? And ultimately, that part of our opportunity to elevate our own consciousness comes from healing those aspects of our being and bringing them to a tipping point of awareness, of transformation, so to speak, so that our soul purpose can come down and come through and then anchor first, and then of course actualize, right?
Yeah.
And isn't that the goal of our beautiful opportunity and path here, to walk the path of self-mastery and self-actualization?
100%. I think the challenge for a lot of people is they believe that something external to them is required to heal them.
Mm.
And there are tools, like your offerings are definitely tools. Meditation is a tool. Healing retreats are tools, but ultimately, every person walking the planet has the power to heal themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's what this Earth experience and Earth School is about, right? It's
Yes.
walking through this experience of life and becoming self-aware and kind of waking up from that dormant, unconscious state to a awareness that there's something more to you. There's
Yeah.
something more connecting to you, whatever you want to call it, but it is your soul and source calling to you in human form.
I
And
love the way that you put that.
thank you. And all of us, if we create that space and silence to connect, have access to our truth.
Yeah.
But it requires so much courage, don't you think, to go in there?
I really do. And I love what you just said, because it's such a core premise in our book. And, one of the things also that we talk about is that you do have to go through it to get to it. Right?
Yeah, you can't, there are no shortcuts here.
It's so true. It's one of the things that we always said at the Barbara Brennan School, right? When we would be in the throes of our deepest pain and trauma, and it seemed so bleak. The hope that, yes, you do have to go through it to get to it. It's so important, because we can be in these healing philosophies or schools of thought or indoctrinations that say, okay, if you just think that it's different, then it's so, and you're essentially healed, right? It really is that easy. You make a choice. But what that doesn't do is address the visceral layer of our cellular consciousness that holds all of our trauma. And until that, those aspects of trauma are addressed, any unresolved emotion and experience, mental constructs, patterns, belief systems, feelings, that continues to project reality and attract reality of experience. And that's when we start to say, gosh, I've seen this pattern in my life before, and it didn't feel so good the last time, and it's starting to not feel really
They
good
keep
right now.
surfacing, and I think the longer we delay our healing or avoid going into the dark and holding ourselves and walking ourselves through it,
Yeah.
the more aggressively these these situations will present to us in our lives, the more we get pressed to look where we don't want to look, the more they're in our face, the more traumatic they become, until we are brought to a standstill, whether it's, be it physical illness, emotional breakdown, life circumstance, like a relationship abruptly coming to an end, or whatever it is. It's going to be something. The longer we delay the process of healing, the more aggressively it's going to continue to present to us, until we're forced to really pay attention, don't you think?
I completely agree. Going back to touch upon some of the aspects of our book where we talk about energy, mood, and love, really we've connected these to the primary systems of the body that hold the keys to unlock those aspects of our empowerment, right? So if we think of energy, we think of adrenal system. If we think of love, we're looking at the heart and cardiovascular. If we think of mood, we're thinking of the brain and nervous system. And so one of the things that we've done is we've gone into a lot of the root causes of dysfunction into these systems, and how we can detox, then how we can nourish, and then how we can activate, right? Just going back to that closet that's full that you can't bring any more into, are aspects that are holding trauma, that are holding density, that are holding pain and dysfunction, can't hold greater frequencies of light and love until we bring healing. And so we go into what's called a photon wheel. And so you'll see a lot of the imagery with our book with a photon and the DNA symbol. So it's really about the photon representing an aspect of light, and how we can bring greater light in and through our DNA for deep healing, deep awakening, and deep self-actualization. And so we go into a wheel with 11 different alchemical interventions, from essential oils to herbs to crystals to gem and flower essences and nutrition and meditation and mudras and ritual, right? Which is ritual and ceremony are ancient ways that we not only honored ourselves, but our humanity and our deep connection from the human layer to our divinity, and how we can remember that not just within ourselves, but within each other. But always the premise comes back to inward, bringing the focus inward, bringing the attention, the intention for healing, for transformation, for forgiveness, for faith, for surrender, for love, to bring that in before we can expect to see it anywhere in our outer reality or the greater world around us.
Exactly. I think there's such a resonance with who we are vibrationally as beings and what we're attracting into our lives. There's a direct resonance to the frequency.
Yes.
So if there's a lot of chaos and a lot of negativity, we have to go in and ask ourselves, what is it within us that's being projected out and then reflected back?
Precisely. That's one of the things that I call our the early childhood treasure map.
It always goes back.
It always goes back. And why? Because it is a beautiful map for us. Our early childhood treasure map has all of the roots of unresolved issues that we've come into this life to bring the light of divine consciousness to bring deeper awareness and understanding to. And so all of those roots, and even if we of course want to look back and say, well, what past lives are affecting this one? Even from that perspective or that philosophy, they're still all held in our early childhood treasure map, right? And so those roots connect into past lives of unresolved issue and trauma, but they're all held for us to see in this particular lifetime, because we do have everything we need inside of us to shift and to create the life that we've always longed to. And, there are moments I think that it becomes difficult to see that. And that's where I always encourage the over the shoulder moment. Like, take a moment to look back over your shoulder, to every step that you've traversed that has brought you here and now.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace it, bless it, and honor it. And really honor the great strides and leaps that you've made along the way, because we all have, even if we don't see it, even if we are in a place of profound forgetting, right? Because that's what it is to come into this earth experience and have that veil of profound forgetting, so that we can remember, so that we can
Right,
empower ourselves,
right.
and then hold the light, the torch for others to find their way to their own truth and freedom as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that is such an important theme of the book, is that we are divine beings of light. We are sovereign beings. And so remembering that truth is what sets us free, right? And so to be able to consistently embody that frequency, we're always looking at another layer of our existence, because there's always more. There's always a deeper
Always.
way to go while we're
There's so
human.
many layers to healing. And you always think, all right, I got this one.
Yeah.
There it comes again. Circling back around. You're like, what? Seriously? I thought I dealt with this. No, there it is again. It's another layer. But it is a spiral, as you mentioned. It is a spiral, and we're spiraling up. And every time we spiral up and have another experience or another go at it, take another pass, we're approaching it from a more ascended and enlightened place. So our perspective is going to allow us to respond with more grace, with more love, with more kindness. And that's where the alchemy begins, right? We're able to start to, I say, we spin that dust into gold, as we are going higher and higher up the mountain. The view becomes more distant. Our view becomes more broad. Our consciousness is expanding, and then allowing us through that expansion and awareness to really honor whatever is presenting, and then our capacity to hold it grows as well.
Absolutely. We truly become the alchemy.
Yes.
Through the process of awakening, through the process of self-discovery, self-acceptance, self-love, right? Everything is within us, and all of the places of power and light and understanding and connection and wisdom and source are all here, and they're all held, just like we talked about the essential oil, and each drop holding the quintessence and all of the nutrients and biochemically active substances. Each of our cells holds that light, that remembrance of our divinity, of our empowerment, and our ability to co-create heaven on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
It takes the process of awareness, and that
100%.
letting go, the detoxing, the nourishing the terrain of our own gardens, right? To be able to activate those intentional seeds and invite them to flourish.
Yes, it's definitely an invitation. And I think a huge part of it is having the courage to release fear, because there's a safety and comfort in remaining small and dimming our light and holding on to those wounds. It's this uncomfortable place, yet it's comfortable.
Right, because it's familiar.
Yeah. Yes, and the unknown is uncomfortable. So, but it requires this leap of faith and this depth of self-love to really go in and shine a light on all of it. All of those shame moments, all of those wounds, having those experiences created who we are today. And who we are today is something to be proud of, because we've overcome so many obstacles and we have done so much healing of ourselves. So we really need to honor all of ourselves, not just the shiny glossy parts, not just the Facebook profile part. You know, we really need to honor those down and dirty shame parts, those vulnerable parts of us, those pieces of us that feel broken
Yeah.
and traumatized by our past. Those were all stepping stones. Those are all integral parts of who we are. So if we can have the courage to really embrace all of ourselves, that's when we become whole and complete. That's when we become sovereign. That's when we create that heaven on earth that you're talking about. Because as our light quotient rises, as we become more empowered and more true to ourselves and more embodying our true essence in love, that is where everything changes in our lives. And that struggle flips into becoming a master creator.
I love that. That's so well put. You know, one of the things that's so interesting to me is that when we consider our DNA that is held throughout, it is this incredible portal that allows us to move into our bloodlines and bring the power of this light and the power of this healing for such quantum transformation that it not only shifts this moment that we're in together, but it shifts our entire past and then our future as well.
Yes, the now moment, the
Yeah.
past, present, and future is all in this now moment. So, absolutely, this healing ripples back and forth, backwards and forwards. Um, I think each person who has the courage to heal themselves is completely alchemizing their soul lineage and their soul ancestry.
I completely agree. I also loved what you said about looking at the places of fear. And this is such a key part, like connecting into the book, looking at the adrenal system, which, of course, through lifetimes of fight and flight, the adrenal system holds all of those imprints. And anytime our life force has been constricted and limited, and so aspects of fear, guilt, shame are all held in these beautiful temples, I like to call them temples of golden light, in the adrenal glands that are held right over our kidneys. And this is often a place that I think is not revered enough and mentioned enough and put enough emphasis on in our not only healing journey, but our awakening journey, because it is where we connect in with the infinite renewable life source from the earth and connecting in to the patterns of higher frequency that are available to us now and can become activators of freedom. And that's really what these adrenal glands are. They hold these beautiful codes of freedom to allow us to liberate ourselves from any places of limitation, of constriction, of fear, of guilt, of shame, of persecution, of violence, of war, of abuse. These are all held in the adrenal system, and why bringing our own awareness and the light of divine consciousness to them is incredibly empowering.
100%. I can't agree with you more. Now, if people want to pre-order your book or
Yeah.
purchase your book, where can they do that? I know you're on Amazon, right?
Yes, the book is available for pre-sale on Amazon, and it's going to be launched in just a few weeks, which is incredibly exciting. And then for any of your listeners that are in Europe, our publisher is in London, Aeon Books, and can also be purchased at their website, Aeon
And
Books.
I will put all of that information in the credits and in the edited version of our show itself. But I'm so excited to see where you go next, Adora. You're constantly evolving, you're constantly creating, you're constantly getting all these incredible downloads to help you move you forward. And what I honor you for is being so aligned and such a pure channel for that information coming in and really honoring it and taking these ideas and creating something so beautiful and tangible for the rest of the world.
Thank you. It is, it's one of those interesting things where I can't imagine doing anything else other than this.
Right.
And spending so many years in my own journey of healing and my own places of inner struggle, which I share a lot about from a place of pretty radical vulnerability in the book, because it's important for people to know that we don't get there alone.
Right.
It's not always a pretty process, and it certainly isn't the profile on Insta or Facebook. It's like, we've all experienced pain and suffering, but it's up to us to liberate ourselves from the patterns of victim consciousness,
Yes.
from the places of disempowerment, and to find, not just find, but remember the light that exists within us, right? The spark of divinity, the spark of sovereignty, it is within each and every one of us. And we all have the potential and grand ability to create the life of our dreams, to contribute to making this heaven on earth.
I think people have this misunderstanding also that they have to have this grand life purpose. They have to show up in this incredible way and to have impact. But the truth is, all of us are vibrational beings. We're all energy and consciousness. And the more we heal and the more we tap into that divine aspect of ourselves, the more we raise that light quotient, the more we are contributing to the collective consciousness, because we are like that drop in the ocean. We're that individual drop, but we're also part of the ocean, that sea of collective consciousness. So as we heal, we're not only healing ourselves, we are raising our light quotient and what we're contributing to the world through the collective consciousness. And so just by being your highest version of you, creating tremendous impact. You don't have to be creating this incredible resume or being, quote, air quote, successful to make a difference in the world. By being the highest version of who you are, whoever that is enough.
Absolutely. I mean, we've all come into this life with a specific purpose and a specific gift. And it all creates to the wondrous tapestry of light that we are, right? From the human perspective.
Definitely.
And whether it's being a wonderful mother or sister or husband or wife, or however our light is designed, designated to be expanded in this world, it's unique to everyone. And that's the beauty, because I mean, think of how dull it would be if we were all here to do the same thing.
Right. We're all here to be ourselves, because we all have a divine blueprint.
Yes.
And it's a matter of finding that. And we'll only find it when we have the courage to step out of all of these ridiculous boxes that have been shoved into by our cultures and our faith and our families and our, social expectation. It takes courage to say, this isn't who I am and I'm miserable.
It's so true. It takes tremendous courage. And, it's not necessarily like being an entrepreneur isn't for the weak of heart, right? It means that we have to look within at places that aren't comfortable, aren't pretty. It's not an easy process per se, but it is, I think, the most rewarding one that we have the opportunity to experience.
It's life-changing when you realize who you really are.
Yeah.
As a soul.
Yeah.
Right? It's so much more than just this human aspect. So much more. I wanted to ask you a quick question. As the planet is going to light and going into higher vibrational frequency, have you noticed the crystal kingdom?
Mm,
Crystals activating, new crystals activating, and other crystals going dormant that were here to serve the three-dimensional paradigm. And now we've transitioned out. And so those maybe went dormant, and you're maybe seeing new crystals activating and coming online and kind of calling to you and giving your
mhm.
new formulations, these quantum formulations.
Yes. Well, one thing is I love working with crystals and essential oils or herbs. And the weekly meditations that I lead, I always include one essential oil and one crystal because they're from each kingdom, their vibrational patterning is different, and yet they work so beautifully synergistically together, right? Not only to heal, but to repair, to activate, right? So many different aspects of our consciousness, of our body, of our mind. And one of the things that I like to work with is the cosmic consciousness and vital life force of the mineral as well as the plant. And this is a way that we can work with, even if we're called to work with a crystal that may not have as much of the higher dimensional frequency in it. When we're working from the cosmic perspective with it and working with different potencies, one of the things that I do when I'm infusing the products or working in meditation or with a client is use the crystal frequency at homeopathic potencies. And when we work with that at a 10 mm potency, it allows the highest vibrational patterning from the cosmic perspective to come through our system holographically, through our auric field, our nervous system, into our cellular consciousness and DNA for quantum levels of healing and activation. Now, this is interesting because it's different than saying, okay, I'm going to pick up a piece of black tourmaline and work with this beautiful frequency as it is, but we're able to work with expanded consciousness of these different gem and even flower essences, even essential oils in this way. And so I've been really enthralled with the expanded way we can work with these plants and minerals through meditation, through group work, and not have the actual tangible representation of the gem or the plant, and still have the potency down to the molecular level, like you can feel it from a tangible perspective.
Right.
And so some of the crystals that I've really been into lately, gosh, um, hmm. Well, tonight, every Thursday, I lead a meditation in conjunction with the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. And tonight is the first on the elemental series, and we're going to be working with the element of water. So how we can bring that element into our system for deep healing, and then holographically bring higher frequency healing and light quotient into all of the bodies of water on the planet. And so I was called to use pearl. Now, pearl you might think of as perhaps more of a third dimensional mineral.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're working with the cosmic consciousness and vital life force, it is exponential. It is universal, it is cosmic, it is incredibly expansive and multidimensional. So
Wow.
I think that that's a really interesting way to look at healing with minerals and even plant medicine from a higher dimensional perspective, and not having the tangible crystal
Well, you
or
know, vibration, it transcends all space and time.
exactly.
So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
The energy is always accessible.
Right. And I think this is part of the wave of how we're going to be working in the future with the specific kingdoms,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's mineral, whether it's plant, and even working with the sacred spirit and frequencies from the animal kingdom. working with the vibrational patterning. And the more that we clear our own field, the more that we're able to receive those higher
Very
frequencies
good
and
perspective.
embody them. So
Uh-huh.
of course it, comes back to that part of the cleansing, the letting go, the
Mhm.
purification,
Mhm.
and the working of our own inner journey to be able to embody these higher frequencies
Yes,
and
I
work
think
with the,
also we have to be a vessel that is pure enough to anchor those frequencies. If,
yeah,
like what you're saying, to speak to what you're saying, if we are not clearing um, ourselves, we are limiting our ability to anchor higher light that's coming into the planet.
exactly,
So,
exactly. Yes, and I think that this is one of the ways that our new book is really going to be a great service to humanity to be able to come into some of these deep places where we long for healing and learn how to let go and how to do that with all of the alchemical interventions. And, from my perspective, the book is really kind of an offering of transcendence because it's not only everything that I've learned and processed in this lifetime, but many lifetimes as a healer and visionary, working with these vibrational frequencies, working with the plants,
I
working
can't wait
with
to read it. Get it
Thank
out
you.
already.
I know. I know. It's so exciting.
Adora, thank you so much for sharing your light, your wisdom, your time. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being
Oh,
an incredible guest.
I love you too. It's such an honor to be here with you. You have such a beautiful wisdom and light and quintessence. It's such a privilege to be
Thank
here,
you so much.
communing with you in this way.
To my audience, thank you so much for joining us for this powerful hour with Adora Winquist. I will include all of her information so you can access her incredible products, her book, all of it, her meditations. She has so much to offer. I love you all. Have a beautiful day. Don't forget to be kind to yourselves. We'll see you next time.